I'm going to play the greatest pirate games ever made in one video. For over 4 decades, developers have been chasing the perfect pirate game. And somehow in 2024, a quadruple A studio managed to make the worst one yet. So I plundered, shantied, and cannonballed my way through nearly 40 years of pirate games to find out which one is the best, where it all went wrong, and if there's any hope for the genre in finding its way back to shore. But before that, we would have to go all the way back to 1979 to the original pirate game. While there's not much to look at because, well, it's all text, it was called a good first adventure. That's why I'm starting off with it as like an honorable mention. Moving on with a bone in her teeth, we disembark towards a game that set people's hearts ablaze for the genre, Monkey Island. Monkey Island was released in 1990, which was a little bit before my time. I was born in 2002, so I didn't get a chance to play that version. I did go back and play The Curse of Monkey Island, which was released in 1997, to get a grasp of why this game received such high praise 28 years later. Monkey Island is not an open world RPG, or even an action-adventure game in a modern sense. You whip out your spyglasses, you're able to see that this is a point-and-click adventure. Now before you ARG, hear me out. This game is in a similar vein to Morrowind, in that this game doesn't hold your hand. Why am I making that parallel? Because you spawn in from a boat in Morrowind, and in my eyes, boat equals pirate. Trust me, it's solid logic, or maybe the scurvy setting in. The brilliance of the game design of Monkey Island becomes clear almost immediately. After racking my brain for about 30 minutes, I was able to escape the first cabin of the ship. Not because of some wacky shenanigans like a Bennett Foddy game, but because the game wants you to experience trial and error naturally. Now I'm not here to claim this is the most realistic game ever, because I went from poking a voodoo doll to mess with an old man's back.
I don't need it.
Being slurped up by a snake just to make a flower syrup to cause the snake to cough me out over a cliff, then fall directly into a sandpit. Someone didn't tell this snake that spitters are quitters. Jokes aside, the drastic escalation is what adds to this game's charm. It sets the tone for this story. You were trying to stop an evil ghost pirate from stealing your wife. Along the way, I may have accidentally got her turned into gold, but in my defense, I needed some doubloons for a new flintlock. She does end up getting stolen anyways. It's just a chaotic, ridiculous mess, and it really kept me on my toes with how surprising everything was. Buried underneath the humor, you can feel the pirate atmosphere. The writing blows games like Skull and Bones out of the water just by itself. God, it's so bad. You see pirates in this game at first glance come across as menaces like, "Arrgh, I'll gnaw your leg off." But they have layers, like a certain ogre who loves onions. You begin to realize that these pirates are searching for a meaning. Some want to be barbers, some might even want to be doctors, and there might even be a doctor barber. This game uses its comedy not to make fun of piracy, but to make it relatable, to humanize an entire group that is typically villainized in the media. It's a story that subverts expectations, is full of personality, and really nails the feeling of adventure. It gave the player full control to experience a masterfully crafted pirate fantasy that is driven by its story, and to me, it is the core foundation of what pirate games as a genre are. Now at this point, if you're a real pirate game aficionado, or just fucking autistic, you might be asking, where is Sid Meier's Pirates? And to that I say, hold on to your replica flintlocks and dino nuggets, because Sid Meier's Pirates has just sailed into port. Sid Meier's is what I consider the pirate game. The game that other pirate games try to emulate, and it has been since 1987. But with the 2004 3D remake, it went extra hard like the gas station Rhino pill. It set the precedent of what a pirate game is, and to this day, no other game has encapsulated what a pirate is better. So my experiences with the 2004 version, but originally it was released on the Commodore 65, and it was the first of what we know as the Sid Meier's games. Long before they ever became synonymous with the Civilization series, they made this cult classic pirate game. Then in 2004, they chose to bring this old school 2D game and fleshed it out into 3D, and that turned a cult classic into what I consider a masterclass pirate game. Let me explain. Combat is like black powder on a spoon. From different types of cannon shot to boarding enemy vessels, the game has an extremely addicting gameplay loop. Personally, ram ranching boats is my favorite part. Come on then, you little slooper. Bring it on. But if you assert dominance too hard, you can end up sinking your own ship. When boarding enemy ships, there are a couple of ways you can go down. If you've taken out enough of the enemy scallywags prior to boarding, or you have a larger crew than them, they can wave the white flag and surrender their boat and booty. Hey, yo. The other way boarding can go down is you enter combat with their captain, which is essentially a version of rock, paper, scissors. Yeah! It's on fire. After winning enough times in a row, you can just chum the waters by throwing their captain overboard, which ends the battle. So after committing starboard pirate murder, you might ask, what happens now? Well, you get brought to a menu screen giving you an overview of their loot, and from there, you can welcome the ship into your fleet or sink it. As far as I can tell, the larger your fleet, the more things you can carry. Also, it does give you the option to rotate between ships if one takes too much damage. So having a few ships to swap between can be pretty useful. Now Harry, you're a pirate. Wait, that's the wrong franchise. As a full-fledged pirate, it's about damn time you're rewarded for sinking these peg-legged fucks. And rewarded you shall be. After sinking the Spanish, England was very pleased, and we set sail to Barbados to speak to the governor to get a promotion that gives us the title of captain in the English Navy. I do wonder if that's how Old Navy gets its name. My dear Captain John Quantavius. And of course, the governor's daughter heard about my recent boat murder escapades and my promotion. And let me tell you guys, that's all a woman wants. She invites me to a ballroom dance, and this introduces the new minigame as a real challenge of this game. Duels, no sweat. But ballroom dancing with minimal time to react, real shit. But being full of jackdaw swagger, we aced the minigame. This adds +5 Riz to our stat line. This loop would continue for a while. Sink or capture ships, capture criminals, get promoted, get winches, etc. Over time, you might want to become an honest merchant, but that life wasn't for me. I'm a slave to these ocean waters. But in case the merchant life calls, you should know that each town has its own economy, and you could buy spices at one city, and then sell them back to like England for a nice price, not that they use them. Even though I wasn't a merchant, I would take advantage of these locals when debating where to sell my loot from sinking ships. I may have been promoted, but I'm still a sea dog at heart. Another unique aspect that makes each town different is there are unique shipwrights per port. Each shipwright has basic features like being able to repair your ship and sell ships. And most importantly, they specialize in a specific upgrade, like bronze cannons or cotton sails. And this promotes adventure across the Caribbean seas to get all the upgrades needed to blast some poor pirate bozos. Now surely that has to be it. Like there's no way there's anything else to this game, right? Feature after feature, like what's next? The game will cause me to touch grass? Well, kind of. Touch grass, no, but more features, oh yeah. Let's dive into some of the remaining ones. You see, we have treasure hunts where you control a landing party to find buried treasure on a vague map. Also, I haven't even mentioned the Caribbean winds, but those actually impact your sailing. There's also a leaderboard of the most dangerous pirates, like Tim the Pirate. When you take one down, you gain a ton of renown to rank up further. What are you expecting? Blackbeard? Or another stereotypical pirate name? Shame on you. Okay, just kidding. Those definitely exist. In fact, Blackbeard is the #1 op to never duck a fade with. Hunting down criminals ends with a duel in a local tavern where the local barmaid proceeds to give them brain damage with a bottle. On top of that, we have to manage crew morale and our resources to prevent our crew from pulling a mutiny. And lastly, there's even land battles for those who are tired of the 7 seas. And it's not too dissimilar to a basic version of Civilization tile combat. The amount of love that went into this game and the sheer impact it left on the entire pirate genre can't be beaten by it. It's a legendary game alongside something like Age of Empires 2. And speaking of legends, this brings us to our second early sandbox RPG style pirate game. Caribbean Legend. I mean, Age of Pirates? Corsair 2? Pirates of the Caribbean 2003? Sea Dogs 2? Can you bumbling fucks just stick with a name? God damn. The game has a lot of similarities to Sid Meier's Pirates. Originally, it was named Pirates of the Caribbean 2003, but it had nothing to do with the movies, unfortunately, and was just an attempt at a cash grab to try and build interest based off the movies and to build interest for the movies based off the game. The main difference in this game is focused more so on the players themselves. You go to town, you can walk around, grab some quests, among other piratey things. At this point, I question if I just installed Skyrim Lite Pirate Edition. This game does have a small narrative if you choose to follow it, but from what I can tell, most people don't, and I sure didn't. I was a bit busy with the fun ship combat, so that's my excuse for not following the narrative. One of the things that really grinds my gears is some pirate games neglect rear and front cannons like a red-headed stepchild. Like, of course, broadside was the most common form of shot. Let's give you a quick lesson in piracy, aka Ships 101, aka I am the captain now. In ship warfare, you have your classic broadside cannons. These are the big boys you see in the little ports cut out of the side or on top of the deck facing the sides. These can be filled with anything from round shot to damage the ship to grape shot to take care of the sails and crew members. This type of cannon is what most people envision when they hear cannon. Well, that is dependent if they have any hearing left after blasting the cannon. There are also a special pair of cannons called the Stern Chasers, no relation to Howard, and Bow Chasers. A Stern Chaser was a cannon placed in the rear of the ship to give out back shots on the open seas. Some historians say your mother was a fan of this type of cannon. And as you might have guessed, the Bow Chaser was a cannon located in the front of the ship. Typically, the cannons used in these situations were the 6-pounder, which was lighter in weight than the broadside cannons, and the Long 9, which had a longer barrel for better range shots while being light enough to not impact sailing, and it's what your mother used to call me. Also, there's a 69 joke here, but it was way too low of hanging citrus, so I'm gonna pass that one up. I'm better than that. Now, why was this bootleg history lesson required? Well, because in Caribbean Legend, you get access to a 4-way barrage of cannons that all have the cardinal directions taken care of. This allows you to rotate your ship to take on multiple targets or fire volley after volley into one ship. The game really gives you an immersive pirate experience and has a bit of a history buff myself. Seeing all the cannons utilized made me fire in the hole prematurely more than I would like to admit. If that wasn't quite enough, there's an aim down sight button for the cannon, which lets you directly aim your cannon for greater precision against your target. targets. This experience reminds me of Daggerfall to a degree. The reason why is that there was zero hand-holding. You had to take off your eye patch and actually read dialogue to complete your quests. I wonder how many Bethesda game references I can make in this video. Caribbean Legend does have really solid features and intuitive combat, and is pretty similar in style to Sid Meier's Pirates, but with a few key differences. From the freedom to move around, dodging side to side, and a number of different attacks, and how can I forget the great equalizer, the Blicky. This is another pirate game that does feature a lot of reading in the form of longer paragraphs, and there were times I got bored, but welcome to early 2000s gaming, baby. After experiencing these early pirate games, something became quite clear. The genre is never held back by things like technology, budget, or even polish. No, you see, what propelled it forward was the intent of the game. These games trusted the player in a way that almost seemed like charting foreign waters if we compare it to modern games. Like, you would get lost, you would fail, and flop around like a fish out of water. This is all a part of this genre's charm. You're meant to discover and overcome trials and tribulations through the use of your own noggin, not through forced dopamine and quest markers. Ubisoft. Monkey Island showed that piracy did not need realism to feel authentic. In fact, it relied on its personality, humor, and in return we received a world that rewarded curiosity. Sid Meier's Pirate lets you indulge in that pirate fantasy rather than just simply observing it. And lastly, Caribbean Legend grounded that fantasy to be more tangible, where exploration, combat, and consequences all come together to become a greater sum than their parts. Together, these would form the metaphorical whole that is the pirate genre. They laid the foundation for what would come after, and they understood the ocean should mirror its real-life counterpart and be vast and wide, ripe full of exploration and experimentation. These games represent what a pirate is at their core, rather than trying to appeal to the masses. And for a time, pirate games settled on the open seas with just a light breeze. Not completely hidden by any means, but also not quite mainstream. They're recognized, but maybe to this day they don't get the full credit they deserve, in my opinion. As time passed alongside advancements in technology, pirate games were pushed into the mainstream. Budgets increased while expectations also rose, though. The fantasy that once lived in text boxes and controlled through simple buttons was now thrust into a much larger spotlight. That moment would truly arrive with games like Assassin's Creed Black Flag and LEGO Pirates of the Caribbean. These games took what the genre had been building upon for years and set sail to the widest audience the genre had seen yet. The wind behind its sails, the pirate genre sailed to what many would consider the peak of the pirate game era. I asked over 500 people what their favorite pirate game ever made was, and a whopping 75% said Assassin's Creed Black Flag. At first, this kind of confused me. How could a game about assassins set in the Caribbean be so beloved? Now, to preface, Assassin's Creed has never been my cup of rum. I just like the mission structures and in general dislike Ubisoft game design, but this game was a little different. If you can get past the shitty training mission design to make you want to blind yourself and throw your controller overboard, you're rewarded with something refreshing and something that really brings that yo-ho, I'm a pirate feeling. Buried beneath all the assassin bits is a gem of a game that not even quadruple A rated games can reach. Once I hit the open waters and set sail as a free man, the realization of why the game is so beloved hit me. The crew singing shanties, the wind in the sails, and the freedom to sail wherever your heart desires, all wrapped up in a huge AAA package. This game was gorgeous for its time, and it still holds up over a decade later. But we're not here for how good she looks, we're here for the personality. The story is amazing, and it revolves around a man searching for his purpose in life and learning how to show restraint. It might sound a bit One Piece-y, and you might be correct, but what we're left with is the combat. Land combat is your standard Assassin's Creed shenanigans, sneak, stabby, McStabbing, but I must admit the combo attacks are pretty fucking brutal, and the additional flintlocks, or the great equalizers as I call them, are a nice touch. But what is a modern pirate game without naval combat? Naval combat is what I think is the real bread and butter of this game, and you'll be doing a lot of it. One of the issues of the previously mentioned games is that when you blast a cannonball, there was no real weight behind it. It just didn't have that oomph. Black Flag, on the other hand, makes you feel like every shot has the word of God behind it. Crashing into a hole, and just the devastation feels visceral. We have pretty much the same combat systems here as pirates, but you're closer down to the ship, you see the individual actions your crew is performing, which is fucking sick. And this is peak piracy. Let me set the mood here. You're on your boat, in the middle of a storm, the choppy waters are rough, the cabin boy's knees are weak, there's vomit on his tunic already. The waves are pounding your boat with no plan B, and the sky splits open. You're fighting for your life while blasting ships with the heaviest cannonballs you can find on this side of the Caribbean. The game really makes you feel like a pirate because you literally are one. There's this whole story of how Edward becomes an assassin and whatnot, but underneath that, we're just yo-hoing in this bitch. You set sail, sink ships, find buried treasure, hire some hookers to spread STDs, distract the guards. I think the boarding in this game is my favorite feature. Swinging by a rope over to an enemy ship and slashing up the whole crew, just to Michael Phelps it back into the water and board another ship, slashing them again, doing our best Doom Guy pirate impersonation. We essentially become a one-man wrecking crew. Out of all the pirate games I played for this video, Black Flag treasure hunting experience stood out to me as the best of any title. You start with a vague piece of a treasure map that is basically out of the land. You have to cross-reference this map with the area around you until you manage to find your way to the treasure. The treasure feels like it's actually hidden versus just being thrown around haphazardly. The Caribbean setting is also another aspect that blows other games out of the water. The deep blue seas, the different weather conditions, hell, even the locale just feels so rich. Everything blends together well in my opinion, but if I had to nitpick, the world map quite literally holds your hand with almost every little thing, and for me that kind of ruins the exploration for me. But what makes Black Flag so special is that beneath the typical Assassin's Creed branding, you know, the tailing missions, the familiar franchise baggage, is a fully fledged pirate game that delivers on a pirate fantasy to a T. The moment you leave land, it stops feeling like a Ubisoft product and starts feeling like something far more genuine. The world opens up, the systems fall into place, and the game finally lets go of some of the control. You're thrust forward into a world that usually existed. I think that is why Black Flag became such a fan favorite. This game built upon decades of pirate game design. We finally had a game that pushed things to a massive scale and wrapped it up into a world that finally looked modern while keeping the spirit of pirates alive. For many of you, this might not just be a great pirate game, it might be considered the pirate game. The game that became synonymous with the word pirate for over a decade. But with Black Flag raising its flag heads and shoulders with the other competition, the expectation of any future game reached a level that not many will ever come close to. But around the same time period, the genre had another game that may have flew under some people's radars, but was expanding the audience in a completely different direction. One that focused on accessibility, co-op, and younger players. This was the game that introduced the pirate fantasy to people who might never touch an open world action game, maybe wanted something more linear in fashion. And of course, that brings us to LEGO Pirates of the Caribbean. Now, why do I consider this potentially one of the greatest pirate games out there? Well, it starts with you actually getting to play through the plot of all 4 of the original Pirates movies. Each movie gets 5 levels in this game for a grand total of 20 playable levels. If you've never played a LEGO game, you're missing out because it really is one of the best co-op or family experiences out there. If you don't have a family, then feel free to imagine one and plug in a few extra controllers. It's in a similar realm of like Sid Meier's Pirates in that there is no talking. Instead, they speak sort of like Minecraft villagers, your goal being to complete puzzles and collect items to advance the level. This game holds a special place in my heart, and it's really the purest hit of nostalgia of all time. I remember being a little broken staff, sitting on a pull-out couch bed with that really crappy styrofoam feeling topper on it, hopping on the Wii and loading up LEGO Pirates with a low bro. It was truly the best of times. Was it because the IRS wasn't hounding me for every penny it can, and I didn't have to think about rent? Perhaps. Many people would call this the golden age of LEGO games. It was banger after banger, with LEGO Batman and LEGO Indiana Jones released just a few years earlier. LEGO Pirates topped off the trifecta. This game in particular does a really great job of immersing you into the world of pirates, being one of the only games that lets you play as Captain Jack Sparrow. But you also have access to pretty much anyone you can think of, from William Turner, Elizabeth Swann to characters like Dog and Davy Jones. However, I did notice there was no Amber Heard character. Maybe she'll be added into a DLC, Disney? Let's be honest though, LEGO's at their core are just fun, and when you add that to a well-beloved series, you typically get a recipe for success. There's no overall plot here to worry about, really. It loosely follows the movie's plot lines, you could just load it up and play the game. There are no feelings of, oh my god, I need to min-max my character stats, because there are no stats, you filthy min-maxing peasants. This game, however, does require some brain power due to the puzzles and trying to collect everything, but outside of that, it's pure brain-off fun. It's fun for the whole family, and I think there are games that can be fun for all ages without taking itself so seriously. Imagine this scenario. Mommy, I'm playing this pirate game, but it says here I have scurvy and rot gut. What's that? Or even, that guard caught me, now I have to wait until my execution in 5 years before I can play again. But the most important aspect of the game is that it's fun, which a lot of games choose to ignore. The game holds a unique spot as one of the few LEGO games based on a Disney franchise, pre-Disney Infinity, and it makes use of its pirate license extremely well. The atmosphere, the music, the characters, they're all there, but just shown through a LEGO lens. After talking about these single-player co-op experiences, it was time to set sail with others, to a place where the neckbeard pirates lived in. I'm talking about MMORPGs, and that's short for massively multiplayer online role pirate games. Let's talk about another Pirates of the Caribbean game. Shocker, I know, but this time it's online. The original game does not exist anymore. It was originally announced in 2005 to coincide with Dead Man's Chest, but ended up launching more around World's End. The game would later be shut down in 2013, but all was not lost. A fan-made revival project called The Legend of Pirate Online would be created and has officially been out since 2017. This is the version of the game I experienced, and it was a faithful remake of the original. While not the greatest MMO by any means, it did have a novelty about it, and it did have solid enough mechanics to make it playable. It featured a sort of cool combo-based attack system, and the ability to level up every single aspect of your character. Where the game really shines is that it uses actual licensed Disney characters, which I mean, of course, the name should give it away. The main quest revolves around helping Jack Sparrow. The ship combat was surprisingly quite good, and required a good amount of skill in my opinion, but it is pretty similar in design to the style of like Black Flag and Sid Meier's games. What caught my eye though was the way you repaired your ship. You have a bunch of mini games that you play in order to repair the ship. From hitting nails, sawing boards, pumping the bilge, saying hello to your mother. The one part that was a miss for me was walking around the land because there wasn't anything super engaging and it was just really bland compared to like other MMO standards, but it got the job done. It was littered with fetch quests, kill a number of things, report back, collect a few things, report back. So to a degree, this was boring and repetitive. To the game's credit though, there were some fun things like needing to get a tattoo to join the pirates and recovering the Black Pearl. Now on the opposite end of the spectrum, like most of the people watching this video, the autism spectrum, if that wasn't clear enough. I think the game captures the freedom aspect of the pirate genre really well, letting you sail island to island, take on any ships you want, and even host a crew. Maybe I'm being a bit too hard on this game due to those rhino pills from earlier, but it does make me wonder, if the land combat had more polish, would the original game still be here? Now, I'm sure you've all heard about Wizards 101, but let me introduce you to the game that solos it every single time. Pirates 101. This MMO was released in 2012 and it was so much fun growing up for me, but as a grown-ass man now, I have no business playing this game. It's definitely intended for a younger audience, almost like baby's first MMO. To me, it lacked the depth to entertain a more mature player, but that's okay. I'm not its target audience anymore. The combat's like a classic turn-based grid combat, and with nothing being reactionary, it was similar in a vein to hardtack, meaning it got stale. That isn't to say it's all bad though. I really enjoyed the class management system and how well this game does the pirate aesthetic, lets you build a crew that makes up for each other's weaknesses. For my playthrough, I chose to play the Musketeer class, and speaking of class, I did notice the character creation was quite unique compared to a normal MMO. Typical MMOs let you pick a name, class, race, etc, but this time the story is intertwined with your character you make, but you're able to still pick out those options previously mentioned through unique dialogue options. What this game does really well is sell the pirate fantasy to a younger audience. Oh god, it's Morrowind all over again. You wake up on the ship, get the Pokemon treatment where the game asks if you're a boy or girl, and after a short tutorial sequence, the world introduces you to what you'd expect from a pirate game. Fighting, cannonballs, treasures, and a pirate ship that you get to steer in this fantasy world known as the Spiral. I think this serves as an excellent gateway to get a younger audience interested in MMOs, oh god, or just pirate games in general while keeping them away from the more suggestive or crude nature that these games typically bring. I don't really see myself recommending this to anyone outside of like nostalgia reasons. Next up to the docket is Sea of Thieves. On the surface, there are pretty mixed reviews at times, and it could be considered a boring game due to lack of player progression outside of just cosmetic items. But I say that this game is the greatest online pirate game ever made, and I will fight anybody on it. 1v1 me, no pirate fleet, son, I'll 360 flintlock your ass. So why do I think this game is so great? It takes all of what I love about Black Flag and Sid Meier's Pirates and combines it into one neat online experience with your unemployed friends. Nothing can beat the online experience of you and your boys behind the wheel of a ship drifting on the open seas with one friend on the hurdy-gurdy and another drunk out of his gourd puking all over the poop deck.
I almost don't want to steer the ship because I'm listening to my tune. I feel the urge to drink the ale downstairs that I found.
Tankard.
Yeah, the tanker.
Even if you are a friendless bastard, you can still meet up with other random bastards and set sail in what amounts to just a dingy. It was me and a random bastard named Joe. Our backs against the sun. You see, Joe was just like me, a new player to Sea of Thieves who knew very little if anything about the game, but that didn't matter.
Oh, what is that?
I don't know what's on that island over there, but it looks evil too. Everything over here looks evil.
We set sail and experienced many trials and many hardships of being a pirate.
Two dudes chilling on a pirate ship, 10 feet apart because they're nut gay.
We made undead friends.
Got the blicky.
And got chased by a megalodon.
That's a big fucking shark.
We sunk some ghost ships and got some treasure, all just to be killed by other players in the end. Even though we expected a quick 15-minute adventure, we ended up sailing the seas with no real purpose besides, ooh, what's that? And exploring the unknown and, oh fuck, oh fuck, oh fuck. And you can't ask for much more than that for being a pirate. Sea of Thieves as it stands right now is truly the only great online pirate game still going. The next game up is a fucking disaster and technically shouldn't even be in this video, but we have to do a couple Hail Marys when mentioning this complete clusterfuck shit show of a game that I dub. With such a rich history of pirate games, we do have to explore the lowest of lows to appreciate where we've come from and potentially be hopeful for the future of pirate games, because this steaming pile of horse shit is what the wrong timeline looks like. That may be the worst pirate game I've ever heard of. Ah, but you have heard of me. Skull and Bones is a pirate game that has a combination of osteoporosis and arthritis. It's the world's first quadruple A game, and it stands for ass, 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 no relation to Big Sean. There is literally nothing good about this game. I swear to God. If I had to name all the shitty things about this game, this video would be an hour long, and it might still be. So for brevity reasons, I'll condense my rant on this chuckle fuck of a game. The first thing is the cost. This game is $70 for a game with less features than Black Flag, which came out over a decade ago. This game is just an example of if a gaming director said, let's make Black Flag again, but worse in every way imaginable, and let's just make it have zero redeeming qualities. What is a pirate game released in the last year without melee combat or real boarding even doing with itself? We had duels and boarding all the way back in 1987 on MS-DOS, for crying out loud. It just doesn't really exist in this game. It's just so bland, it's offensive. NPCs, whack. Subpar setting, whack. Boring narrative, whack. Unnecessary grinds, whack. And finally, a half-assed online implementation that clearly was a second thought after everything as a tool to sell more copies of the game. Like with only 1 or 2 direct competitors, why would you release such a subpar game? I'm gonna break it down side by side next to a game released a fucking decade ago. Black Flag ship feel like they had weight behind them, which required planning and rewarded player skill in combat. Then you have Bitch and Bone ship movement. It's like a hovercraft on ice and spinning on a dime. Like, how is that enjoyable? If we head back to Black Flag once again, the oceans have waves and this can impact your shooting. In rough waters you might miss because a massive wave swells and blocks your shot, and you can take advantage of this. But now a decade later, we have these flat oceans, flatter than Hank Hill's ass, and Skull and Bones, where you just point at a ship and boom, there goes the cannon. Don't even get me started on just cannon mechanics. In Black Flag, if you want to move a cannon up and down, hell yeah, sure, fucking do that. But you had to time your shots to get the arc of the cannonballs just right to nail a target, and depending on how rough the ocean was, would determine how hard it was to land. When you did land a hit, it was so satisfying. On the flip side, Skull and Bones. You could coach a monkey, or I suppose a parrot in this case, to move a reticle to a ship, press the button, and that's the extent of the aim you need in this game. It all has like the feel of a light pistol arcade cabinet, but with none of the satisfaction that comes with it. We really got Call of Duty Skull and Bones in 2025. Black Flag has dozens of towns, multiple cities, environmental storytelling that is told throughout the entire game. If you want to walk through all these places, you can. You can find collectibles, fill your cups with grog, get into fights, now even tons of small side quests. For Skull and Bones, oh boy, we have copy-pasted settlements that are limited in size, and even more limited by the things you can do with them. Lastly, the sheer scope of Black Flag just isn't comparable. Massive open sandbox, jump off your boat at any time, walk around islands, maybe hunt some treasures, some nautical drive-bys. Basically, the world is your oyster. And to top off this shitcasso, Skull and Bones limits your movements between a handful of settlements, and the rest of the gameplay just takes place on a lifeless boat. It's just a sheer embarrassment of a game. Its only redeeming quality is that it doesn't crash on startup most of the time. And even that could be considered a negative because of what you're submitting yourself to. If Skull and Bones is the Antichrist, then who is the savior we can turn to in these dire times of mediocrity? Well, it was the newest pirate game I could find, and it definitely didn't take itself seriously at all. I present to you, Like a Dragon, Pirate Yakuza in Hawaii. Now before you start mashing your keyboard and saying, this is not a pirate game, let me explain. I will agree, the start is not very pirate at all. It's a beat 'em up game in a similar category like Devil May Cry. In fact, you're beating up pirates. Start out doing typical Yakuza game things, which are going to be some of the most bizarre shit ever thought about. The writer definitely wrote this during a 3 a.m. ambient episode. So you can expect the game title explains it quite well. You're a Yakuza, you get shipwrecked on an island, the island being modern day Hawaii, and then you start to fight off pirates on this island because everyone knows the rivalry between pirates and Yakuza. And there might potentially be ninjas, but I haven't seen any yet. Maybe that's the DLC. Here comes the wacko mode shit. We get a wooden pirate ship with cannons. So far, it's adding up. Now let's add a forward-mounted machine gun because that is our God-given right as a red-blooded American. Well, I suppose we're an immigrant now that I'm thinking about it. Actually, after further thinking, let's not open that can of worms. Instead, let's open up a can of whoop-ass. So anyways, where was I? Oh yes. Forward-mounted machine gun. Who wants a regular-ass cannon? Let's upgrade them to be in the shape of a shark. And the silliness doesn't stop there. Get this. You get laser cannons, flamethrowers, frost machine gun, Gatling gun, coconut machine gun, and fucking rocket launcher. And what's a rocket launcher but a modern day blunderbuss? We also have the technology to wrap our boats now, so say goodbye to basic wood boats and say hello to the fully pink ship. If you are a Yakuza fan and you're asking yourself, is this game canon? Yes, this game is canon, and you're going to need a lot of them. At no point does this game even for a second try to explain or justify why this wacky shit is going on. It just exists and gives the vibes of Saint Row 4. That's the one where you're the president and aliens start messing shit up while you smack them with a dodo, just for reference. It feels like the perfect balance to me. It reminds me that the PS2 era of gaming where companies threw whatever fun bullshit at the wall to see what stuck. They generally wanted the player to have some fun and subvert the expectations that come with similar titles in the genre. To me, this game is sort of proof that when game devs are vibing and having a great time, by acting like a pirate crew IRL, drinking and singing, they produce the best games. Meanwhile, to beat the horse shit out of a dead horse, ironically, even though you have some of the wackiest shit imaginable, Yakuza's naval combat is closer to Black Flag than Skull and Bones could ever come close to, which is insane. So at this point, I think I've got a few different answers to what the greatest pirate game ever made was. For me, the best one overall has to be Sid Meier's Pirates. It's the epitome of a pirate game without even having a real story. Gives you the ultimate player freedom you want. You just feel like you're the ultimate pirate and nothing can stop your legacy. If you want to focus on ship combat, then Black Flag's probably your best bet. Super immersive. But if you asked what my favorite online pirate game is, then it has to be Sea of Thieves, no questions asked. I think more pirate games need to take heavy inspiration from Sid Meier's. Honestly, the only thing keeping Black Flag from being my favorite game overall is that it has too much assassinating in it. It pulls you out of the vibe of piracy, but when you're not having to dabble in a little stabby, The game is at its peak. If I had it my way and could make the ultimate pirate game, it would look like this. First, the ship combat would be similar to Black Flag if single player, or if it's multiplayer, we can go with like Sea of Thieves. I'd take the ship upgrades from Sid Meier's with the expiration tied to getting all the upgrades, and then let's add the crew building of Yakuza Hawaii. Then let's mix it up a bit and grab the shanties from Sea of Thieves, but with the vocals of Black Flag. And last but not least, the player agency and freedom of games like Monkey Island and Sid Meier's. So there you have it. Sid Meier's Pirate is the best pirate game ever, baby. But that leaves us with an itching question. What does the future contain for pirate games, and did the previous titles set the bar too high? There's a remake of Black Flag coming in 2026, supposedly. But with Ubisoft attached to it, I'm not too confident with how it'll turn out. We need to take Ubisoft and push them over there. There's also Wind Roads, which is an up-and-coming survival co-op pirate game, which might be a refreshing take on the genre, as I haven't seen anything similar before, so keep an eye on that one. And if I'm being honest, I don't think previous titles set the bar too high. If games like Yakuza Hawaii and Sea of Thieves, which exist on completely different ends of the spectrum, can succeed, then there's no reason more well-crafted pirate games can't come to shore. To those that have made it this far, may you have grog in your belly, and may the fair winds follow the seas. And if you would be so kind as to make that subscribe button walk the plank. Thanks for watching.